Hi, hello, Wagwan. Welcome back to Just Chattingz. This is episode 4, and today we are getting into things. So we're gonna be talking about confessions. Yeah, you don't know confessions, some top secret stuff, but we're going to be looking at it in a productive way, right? A very productive way because we know that without confessions, you can't notice a pattern and attack it. So, in this episode, we will be looking at how some of the things that we do have created certain patterns in our lives and caused our lives to be going in, let's say, the wrong direction. Yeah, so we're keeping it real here, real talk, real vibes. So, stay with me. All right. So when we think about confessions, basically we're talking about admitting that something has been done wrong. So whether I've said something wrong, I've done something wrong, that's what confessions are all about. Yeah. And when we confess something, especially in the process of healing, it is not for us to feel shame, but it's to release. It's to let go, right? And confession should not be, quote unquote, should not be self-condemnation. It should be a plug for clarity, right? And a lot of people might not know this, but when you confess things, whether it is to yourself or to others, it creates a space for healing and growth. And it allows us to acknowledge that many of us, hear me out, many of us carry silent habits that shape our lives. And the truth of the matter is, you cannot heal what you won't admit. So today, that's what we're getting into. And of course, because I'm keeping it real, today's episode will be laced with my own confessions. All right, so over the years, I have noticed something about me, and it's not a good thing. I know it finds its root in most of my actions and in most of my thought patterns and even some of my intentions sometimes, I don't know if you can resonate with this, but one thing that I have to confess is that I people please. Yeah, I people please. Yeah, I people please a lot, and I've done it for years. And not just in a personal setting, like with myself, like, you're one-on-one. But I've seen this people pleasing show up in my workspace, in my church space, and in interactions with my friends and my family. So, you might be listening and you're wondering, yeah, I've heard this people pleasing, but what does it really mean? So people pleasing can show up in different ways. People pleasing can show up in saying yes when you really mean no. Yeah. Yep. It is tied to wanting to be liked, wanting to be needed. It's also tied to the fear of disappointing others. Yeah, fear of disappointing others. It is tied to losing your authentic self. It disconnects you from your authentic self because you are basically putting yourself on a back burner. And a lot of people might not want to admit this, but people pleasing, I think I keep having like this tongue-tied moment. People pleasing often causes resentment, and here it comes, burnout. So today you might be listening and you're not really opening up to the idea of people pleasing as a error, as a fallacy in your own life. But think about it. Who are you performing for? What parts of yourself have you silenced to keep the peace? Who am I performing for? What parts of myself have I silenced to keep the peace? And if you're honest, a lot of us, we do things because we want attention from others or we're seeking validation from others. And it's not for ourselves. Some of the things that we do, we're not showing up for ourselves. We just want maybe the parents to acknowledge us. Maybe we want our friends or our culture to accept us. And sometimes when you're saying yes to these things, different situations, you are basically putting yourself on the back burner. And that's never a good thing. That's never a good thing. And as a Christian, you know, some of us, we please people more than how we please God. Yeah? Sometimes instead of obeying the word of the Lord that has been set out for us in the word of God, we push it aside and we do things the people way instead of the God way. Yeah. But in order to really become the true version of ourselves, the healed version of ourselves, we have to start honoring our inner truth. And that means showing up for yourself. That means if you really want to say no to something, be honest with yourself. If you're supposed to wear something and you know the culture accepts it, but inside you're like, this makes me uncomfortable. I'm more for comfort over style. Yeah. Show up for yourself in the small ways. Show up for yourself in the small ways. You know, you can't go to that event because you're depleted. So depleted that you are fried mentally. Stay home. Choose yourself. Rebuild and come back again. Then show up to the event half-hearted and knowing deep in yourself that you have chosen to abandon yourself. You put somebody before you, somebody's needs before yourself, somebody's wants before yours, somebody's desires before yours. Yeah. So remember to remind yourself or ask yourself these questions to stay grounded and to stay away from people pleasing. Who am I performing for? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Right? And then you have to ask yourself, what parts of myself do I keep silencing to keep the peace? All right, then. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I have people pleased over the years and I've noticed the pattern and I'm making efforts to stop, check in with myself and ask myself these questions. So, you should too. Right, my second confession. Like, a lot of people find this topic very touchy, and it's only touchy if you really have a fallacy in this area. So poor financial planning. Yeah, this has shows well, this aspect of my life is not a strong point, basically. Yeah, I think I can do better when it comes on to financial planning. Yeah, and it might be the same for you. This is how poor financial planning shows up, like avoiding a particular decision because you are like, not sure or whatever. Instead of avoiding, you should approach your finances with intention. You know how much money you have, you know what you need to do, and you know what you need to get done. So instead of avoiding and saying, sure, I'm not touch my pay, yeah. Or I'm not spending this increase because, I'm just gonna leave it. Right? Yeah. So that's a big no-no. And it also shows up as emotional spending. Emotional spending. You don't feel so good today, so you say, what we say it in Jamaica, treat yourself, man. But if you end up treating yourself every single day because maybe you're having a stressful week or you're going through a breakup or somebody died in your family, like, you have to check yourself. You can't just spend the money because you're in an emotional low or you're feeling off, right? Yeah. And you have to be a good steward over your money and your other resources. So money is not your only increase. So you have to be careful how you're stewarding your life, because that flows over into your finances. How you steward your time, how you steward your energy. Yeah. And one of the things that persons might not want to admit is that sometimes trauma and scarcity mindset affects how we spend money. So you have to be careful to watch out for these things, watch out for scarcity mindset. And I recently saw this on somebody's status, and it kind of did pinch me a little when I saw it. When I think our culture calls it broke vibes. So like scarcity mindset would be always giving off a broke vibe. You don't have to give off a broke vibe all the time, or just make proper decisions. You can't go somewhere, you just can't go somewhere. Live within your means. There's a scripture in the Bible that says knowing when to abase and when to abound. That actually speaks about living within your own confines. So if you're going through a season of lack, or going through a season where your money is not flowing the way you'd want it to, instead of trying to basically be a part of everything and be everywhere, just steward the resources properly. Sometimes you'll have to say, I can't come to that event, even though I had planned to earlier this month. Yeah. And I think a lot of us stay in certain seasons because of shame. Yeah. I'm wondering, like, is it really shame that keeps people stuck financially? I don't think it's shame. It could be perceived as shame, but I don't think it's shame. But if you feel stuck financially, my advice, taking my own advice actually, my advice would be acceptance and being intentional about where you spend your money and how you spend your money. Pull back on a few things. If you used to eat fast food 3 times a week, maybe just do one. If you go to the movies 3 times a month, maybe just do one. Or if it's at an extreme level that you are afraid to discuss, stop eating out and prepare your meals at home and just chill, Yeah. A lot of people will not, and I mean will not admit that some of the financial habits that we have are often emotional and not logical. And so you have to be discerning, and you have to be mature enough to ask yourself, why do I keep spending money on this? Why do I keep going there? Do I have to go to this cafe? Do I have to buy this outfit? Do I have to spend so much money on makeup? Yeah, you have to check in. You have to check in with your emotions and figure things out. Because the truth is, ignoring money doesn't make the problem go away. It makes it pretty loud. Mm-hmm. Yup. Yes, 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 yes. All right. I don't know how many persons will be able to relate to my third confession, but sometimes I allow a level of neglect in my own life because I'm feeling some type of self-loathing. Just for the persons who might not understand the extent of self-loathing, it kind of leans into a little bit of self-hate. Because maybe you have been making decisions that you're not proud of, or you have been allowing things to happen to you that you're not proud of, or you have not been taking full responsibility for certain areas in your life, and so you feel a little bit of resentment towards yourself. So that contains that self-loathing. And when you begin to neglect yourself because of self-loathing, it can show up as neglecting your health. You have the flu, you keep ignoring it, and say, "Man, this will get better." You're neglecting your rest, not getting proper sleep. You're pushing the boundary. You're neglecting your own joy. You're neglecting setting heart boundaries with people and certain situations. You have a practice of using subtle self-punishment. And I know that probably a lot of people might not do this or even think about doing this. But some persons who struggle in this area, like myself, they will withhold certain things from themselves as a form of punishment. That's what self-punishment is. So you say to yourself, all right, I told you not to do X, and you still run ganga do X. So I'm deciding that I'm withholding this from myself as a form of punishment. Yeah, so I've suffered from this over the years, not by a great deal, but I've actually observed different times of my life where I have withheld certain things because I'm trying to punish myself. And I think maybe this comes out of feeling undeserving because you've done something wrong, or you have gone back to a pattern that you told yourself you wouldn't go back to, maybe contacting somebody you have told yourself, all right, I'm never going to message this person again. I'm just going to let go of the anger. You find yourself messaging and raging in their DMs. OMG. Self-loathing also shows up quietly and might not be even dramatic. So you have to check in with yourself and ask yourself, am I punishing myself because this didn't go well? Am I trying to, And I know a lot of people, whether you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s or you're a teenager, sometimes you treat others better than how you treat yourself. Yeah. You treat others better than how you treat yourself. You're not kind to yourself. It's like, yeah, everybody gets the best treatment, but you don't treat yourself with that high regard. And that's something we should definitely stop. Right? Some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves is, how have I abandoned myself? I know that through social media now you're hearing about your inner child. Have I been abandoning my inner child? Have I been abandoning myself? How have I been abandoning myself? In what ways? What care do I give to others but withhold from myself? Yeah, we have to ask ourselves these questions and do our own inner probing, because guess what? If we're not willing to do the internal work, some of us should stay away from relationships. There are a lot of people who are running down marriage and running down being in intimate relationships, and they refuse to have these type of conversations with themselves. Like, how have I been abandoning myself? What care do I give to others but withhold from myself? No. Yeah, that one was deep. All right. This my fourth confession, and I know as a Jamaican woman and a Jamaican, sometimes you are so excited about an idea that you have received, and you're like, oh my goodness, yes, 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 this is finally working out. Excuse me. This is finally working out. Oh my God. And I confess that announcing my business too much has been something I've done over the years. I think it has only been since this year that I have pulled back on announcing what I'm going to do and just doing it and then allowing people to see. Yeah. And this over announcing or announcing too much pattern of my life shows up in different ways. So it can show up as oversharing a dream that you've had, whether it is a vision that the Lord has given you or an actual dream and aspiration, like something that you want to do in life or stuff like that. Sometimes oversharing these things or sharing these things before they've taken root or before you've processed or before you've taken it to God and submitted it to prayer and fasting and all of that. We won't go tell people about this and that, and And it's not a good look, and it does not serve us. But I think sometimes we announce a lot of the things that we do because we're really seeking validation when we should be seeking confirmation. So moving forward, instead of seeking validation about your ideas, about your dreams, about your plans, seek confirmation. Turn it inward and turn it to God. Pray about it and put it to the Lord and let Him give you wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and direct you in how to handle this dream or new idea or focus or business focus or a new talent He's asking you to explore, or a new skill He wants you to develop. Maybe you're supposed to be getting married this year, meaning, oh my God, probably in 2026. And the Lord is saying to you, okay, I want you to start doing this class to prepare yourself for marriage. You don't have to tell everybody, say, oh, blah, blah, this and that and XYZ. No. And sometimes when we announce too much, we end up talking, and not doing anything in the end. Right? And I think this announcing too much has a two part. It is also not good for us spiritually, and socially it's not good. Announcing too much can come off as boasting and bragging. Like, you're going to your friends bragging about these ideas or bragging about this dream or whatever. Yeah, and we need to acknowledge that we have this particular issue, and you know what? Start protecting our process. Not because you have the idea means it's ready to be shared. You don't have to share it at all. Just sit with it, bring it to the Lord, ask Him for confirmation, ask Him to guide and direct. And yeah, not everything needs an audience. Some things just need obedience and alignment, etc. etc. Right. When I sit and I think about all the things I've said so far, I'm wondering if there are other confessions. Like, yeah, I do this sometimes. I have jotted down a few things, and I think this is something that I do a lot. Delaying obedience because of fear. So God might be saying something to me in an area of my life, and because I am fearful of the effects or the repercussions, I delay obeying what the Lord is saying to me in a particular area of my life. And that's definitely a pattern that needs to end. Also, confusing comfort with alignment. Yeah, not because you're in a season that feels comfortable means you're walking in alignment with the Word of God. So, in order to know if you're in comfort or alignment, you have to be able to say, God, not my will, but thy will be done. You have to always remind yourself mentally, listen, not my will, but it is the will of the Lord that will prevail in my life. And I surrender to the will of the Lord. All right. This is something that I've been doing, I think, for the past 7 years. Holding on to something because letting go feels like failure. And I almost did this with my business. I had a business idea back in the past. If you know, you know. And I took it to the Lord. I went on fasting and I decided to walk away from the business because it was turning into something that it wasn't supposed to be. And I always say to God, I don't want to lose sight of you. And if there's something in my life that I need to let go, yeah. So I had a hair care business and I had to let it go. Another thing I had to let go, as I still love to this day, is cheerleading. Yeah, I work at a high school and had the opportunity for about 2 to 3 years to be a staff advisor or a managing coach to a high school cheerleading team, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. But, yeah, it didn't align with certain values and certain beliefs that I have for myself and my relationship with Christ. There's certain areas of this sport that was clashing with other areas of myself, and I had to let go, even though I was holding on for so long. All right. Another one is staying busy to avoid a feeling. Yeah, I did this. I did this for a while as well. Staying busy to avoid a feeling or to avoid healing. And that happened to me, and I spoke a little bit about it in one of my previous episodes about healing and how it's a journey and not a race. And so I was staying busy to avoid dealing with that hurt. Yeah. So I think we've gone through most of my confessions. I'm so grateful to God, so grateful to God for the ability to see certain patterns and to be able to say, yes, God, I have a problem. It's not somebody else doing this thing to me. It's me doing this to me. And we have to come to a turning point, when we accept that confessing these things actually matter. Because confession is clarity and not punishment. After we confess, freedom comes, because honesty is the best policy. When we confess, we are at the starting point of breaking cycles and breaking patterns that do not serve us, that actually keep us stuck and stagnant. Confession also allows us to name patterns and give us power over them and not the other way around. The truth of the matter is, God already knows everything about us. So the confession is really for us to unburden our souls and to allow ourselves to heal, to allow ourselves to grow, to allow ourselves to be transformed. All right? And you don't have to confess publicly like I have done. So you can, after listening to this episode, you can write down your 3 private confessions. You don't have to post it. And sit with it and talk through it. Talk yourself through it. You can try and identify a pattern that interrupts your week. Ask God to show you a pattern, something that you do that does not serve you, but you keep holding on to it. And while you're processing all these things, replace shame, any shame that you might feel, with responsibility. Take responsibility for the parts that you have played in establishing these patterns in your own life, and shift the blame from somebody else and take full responsibility and say, this area of my life is suffering because I am not being a good steward, or this area of my life is suffering because I have chosen over and over again to people please. So yeah, replace shame and take responsibility. Yeah. And another thing, choose one boundary that you're willing to honor. So create a boundary today and say, whenever this happens, I'm going to show up this way for myself, and stick to it and practice it until you have mastered it. And then after you've mastered that boundary, set another one and continue the process. Also, we have to be real with ourselves. We have to be able to sit with the discomfort that we're feeling about a particular pattern that we've enabled, instead of running from it and avoiding it. Because avoiding it, trust me, won't change a thing. All right, so as we come to the end of today's episode, Confessions, let us turn our eyes to the Lord. We want to thank the Lord for the ability to be aware of certain things. We want to thank Him for His grace and His mercy that is new every morning. We want to thank Him for the possibility for growth. We want to thank Him for the lessons that we've learned from the mistakes that we've made, from the patterns that we have noticed. We want to thank Him for showing us that there is space for change. We want to thank Him for sticking close to us. We want to thank Him for being all that we need. We give God thanks today for a beautiful opportunity to be transformed by His power. We thank Him for His wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, that as we go into this new season of our lives, 2026 is on the brink. We're just 6 days away. We want to thank God for keeping us through 2025 and carrying us to the difficult seasons and painful circumstances and even areas or days of lack. We want to thank God that He remains the same and nothing takes Him by surprise. He never changes. He's a God of honor. He sticks to His word. I want to thank Him. Yes. All right, cool. All right, cool. All right, cool. As we end today's session today, this episode today, let us remember that God is the greatest. Let us remember that without God, we are nothing but dust. All right? Yeah. So walk good and do good. And if you cannot be good, be careful. Bless upon yourself. Until next time.